Good afternoon, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to yet another edition of Aqsa is Calling. My name is Faraz Patel. Now, we are trying to establish connection with our brother Ahmed, who gives us a daily update from Gaza. But we are struggling to connect to him, as you do know that the infrastructure in Gaza has been damaged due to the latest airstrikes. So while we are trying to establish him, here are some messages of support in solidarity for the people of Palestine. Take a listen.
Hello, my name is Conrad Koch. I'm a comedian and satirist from South Africa. I've gone to court fighting racism. I've won an award from a guy called Ahmed Katrada, who was in jail with Nelson Mandela for fighting racism. And I'm very concerned about the situation in the Sheikh Jarrah region of Jerusalem. I realize the situation is incredibly complex, but the simple fact is forcing people out of their homes is something we saw during apartheid South Africa, and it is unconscionable. One cannot settle in a place where people are already living.
Assalamu alaikum to the people of Palestine. Know that your fight is our fight. There's not a day that goes by we don't pray for your safety and your freedom. Allah is with you. Keep going, keep strong. My name is Faiza. Save Sheikh Jarrah.
Hi, my name is Fasia Hassan. I am a South African activist and youth leader. I'm also the youngest member of the Gauteng Provincial Legislature. As a South African, we know all too well what an apartheid state looks like. The forced removals in Sheikh Jarrah are criminal and are tantamount to not just settler colonialism, but very clearly an apartheid regime. In South Africa, we've seen forced removals. Most of our parents and grandparents were thrown out of their homes by the virtue of the color of their skin. And we're seeing the exact same thing happening now. We must take a stand. Save Sheikh Jarrah.
I wish to express my solidarity with the people of Sheikh Jarrah and Palestine in their courageous resistance against the forced removals. I just want to say that no unjust power can defeat a people united in the cause of justice and freedom. Thank you.
Dear Palestine, we are outraged at what is going on. We stand with you in solidarity. We are not free until Palestine is free. Save Sheikh Jarrah.
Assalamu alaikum. Good morning. This is Umesh Pawar from the University of the Western Cape. I want to pledge my solidarity to the Palestinian people and the continuous struggle for freedom from occupation. And also, I want to convey my strongest outrage about the situation in Palestine and Al-Aqsa at the moment. Strength to you, solidarity to you from Africa. Free and save Sheikh Jarrah.
Behaving with absolute impunity, engaging in a racist colonial expansion, expropriating more land and more property through invasion and further occupation. It seems that Israeli policy is to mimic the Nazi mentality and policy of Lebensraum. All strength to Sheikh Jarrah and Al-Aqsa.
A message to the people of Palestine in the Gaza Strip, in the West Bank, and Al-Quds. We know that you're going through a very, very difficult moment right now. But we know also that you have never accepted defeat and that your spirit cannot be conquered. So we affirm as South Africans that your struggle is our struggle and that we will never rest content until Palestinian freedom is on the horizon from the river to the sea. Viva Palestine, viva! Save Sheikh Jarrah.
What is happening in Palestine today is an international tragedy. There is no two-state solution left. What the Palestinians would need to get is a one-state, non-racial, non-sexist, non-sectarian and democratic The Israeli state is clearly a state of dispossession, of denial and oppression, an apartheid state. Save Sheikh Jarrah.
Palestinian people, Nelson Mandela South Africa stands by you. We condemn Israel's criminal actions. This new round of ethnic cleansing of East Jerusalem, the eviction of people, the destruction of their homes, and their sacrilege in storming the Al-Aqsa Mosque. We stand with your resistance, as in South Africa, the people's resistance supported by international solidarity in your just cause will see you win your freedom. We stand with you. Amantla, Viva Palestine.
Assalamu alaikum. I'm Yasin Bonds, a comedian from Cape Town, South Africa, and I stand by the Palestinians in Jerusalem. It is now our time as the world to stand by the Palestinians. We see what's happening on social media, how they are being taken from their homes. We must be their voice. Save Sheikh Jarrah.
Hi, my name is Fasiya Hassan. I am a South African activist and youth leader. I'm also the youngest member of the Gauteng provincial legislature. As a South African, we know all too well what an apartheid state looks like. The forced removals in Sheikh Jarrah are criminal and are tantamount to not just settler colonialism, but very clearly an apartheid regime. In South Africa, we've seen forced removals. Most of our parents and grandparents were thrown out of their homes by the virtue of the color of their skin. And we're seeing the exact same thing happening now. We must take a stand. Save Sheikh Jarrah.
I wish to express my solidarity with the people of Sheikh Jarrah in Palestine in their courageous resistance against the forced removals. I just want to say that no unjust power can defeat a people united in the cause of justice and freedom. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum. To the people of Palestine, know that your fight is our fight. There's not a day that goes by we don't pray for your safety and your freedom. Allah is with you. Keep going, keep strong. My name is Faiza. Save Sheikh Jarrah.
Dear Palestine, we are outraged at what is going on. We stand with you in solidarity. We are not free until Palestine is free. Save Sheikh Jarrah.
Greetings, everyone. As a black child in South Africa who understands apartheid and what apartheid stands for, we want to stand with the children of Palestine in solidarity.
Well, welcome back. We'd like to thank those who obviously gave their voice messaging there, courtesy of AfroPet, with regards to the solidarity messages coming from here to South Africa to the people of Palestine. Alhamdulillah, we are able to get a connection to our brother Ahmed from Gaza. Ahmed, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, brother. Yes, we are now inside damage form. As you see, we are making damage assessment of these houses and other houses here in this area. As we see destructions of you, I would like to show you, brother.
Sure, no problem.
Yeah, if you see the roof of this house, this is due to the airstrikes. You see, I'm just here inside this home. Alhamdulillah, we are making the needs assessment of damage assessment of this house and other houses. All, as you see the roof, brother, you see the roof of this house. This is a sheet, a steel sheet, you know. You see my brother here. And also, you see this. This is the roof of this house. Everything is destroyed here. We are making the damage assessment of these needy families. Yeah, and yeah, you see. You see, brother, you see the damage here in this house. Yeah, these are houses, you know, the windows are broken, damaged. This is the roof also of this house. So, alhamdulillah, we are now on the ground here in Gaza, and we are trying to help the people of Gaza in these difficult times. Until now, the number of the death toll in Gaza, they raised to more than 250 Palestinians, and more than 2,000 have been wounded due to the airstrikes. Now, alhamdulillah, there is now a ceasefire in Gaza, but my brother, the situation now is going worse. Thousands of Palestinians have been wounded, and now we have huge destructions. When we are visiting these houses, you see there, brother, you see the windows, everything is destroyed. You see everything is destroyed. The roof of these houses, everything is damaged here in Gaza. We are speaking about nearly 10,000 houses and apartments in Gaza have been damaged and destroyed. So alhamdulillah, we are making this assessment and making the damage assessment in this house and other houses in this area.
Brother Ahmed, I don't know if you're able to get one of the people that are in the house there, just to ask them the effects of what they had felt over the last 2 weeks. It's always good to get somebody from the ground. So, what is the name of the uncle there, the brother there?
Ashraf. Brother Ashraf.
Brother Ashraf. No, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Brother Ashraf, I think if maybe Imam Ahmed will obviously translate into Arabic, just how has it been for the last 2 weeks for you? What, the feeling of your family, the destruction that it has caused. Just give the viewers here in South Africa an idea of how it is to be a Gazan at a time like this.
هو بيسأل ايش كان شعوركم في الفترة الأسبوعين هذول اللي بديتوهم. احكي لنا عن مشاعركم، ايش اللي صار معك بالضبط؟
احنا بالذات الأطفال عندنا، يعني أكثر حاجة كانوا خايفين الأطفال عندنا، وكانت رعب شديد كمان. كان في رعب شديد للأطفال عندنا، وحتى الكبار يعني سن كبير وبنات كبار، وكانوا في خوف كبير عندنا.
مشاعرك اللي صار
مشاعر لا توصف، يعني لدرجة لحتى الآن الواحد مش مستوعب ايش اللي صار. يعني صدمة لحتى الآن.
So these brothers here speaking about they are now still in the shock due to this bombing and airstrikes, and alhamdulillah, Allah saved them because the airstrikes and the bombings was above them, and alhamdulillah they have been evacuated from this house during the shelling on their homes, and alhamdulillah Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saved them. They have refuge inside their relatives' house, and also they have just one sister, the daughter of a brother Ashraf, has been wounded due to the airstrikes. She's nearly 20 years old, has been wounded, and the brother and the feeling that the children here, they feel with the fear, they feel with the horror, and also they are still in the show. They did not imagine, they did not pretend what has happened to them.
Okay, no, shukran, and please tell them that our du'as, our thoughts, and our hearts are with the people of Gaza. So if you can relay that to them and say we continue to make dua, and the people of South Africa continue to believe that one day justice and reconciliation will come to the people of Palestine.
نعم، هو بقول لكم إن شاء الله إنه شعب جنوب أفريقيا معاكم وإخواننا المسلمين هناك، وأيضا إن شاء الله العدل سيعم إن شاء الله، وإن شاء الله ستأخذون كل حقوقكم بإذن الله تعالى. إن شاء الله.
No, shukran. Brother Ahmed, no, shukran. No, it's an absolute pleasure. Brother Ahmed, of course, the ceasefire which kicked in on Jummah, I think a lot of people are asking now, what's the way going forward in terms of the reconstruction, in terms of getting back the lives of the people? You told me, obviously, before we went on air that Ashraful Aid, which is an organization based here in South Africa, was, of course, assisting you. I know you were part of the assistance with regards to that. Could you give the viewers an idea of just how it was to try and at least give hope to the people?
Yes. Until now, the reconstruction process is not clear because we are speaking about losses of just more than $700 million. So this is the reconstruction of Gaza. It needs the efforts of the countries to reconstruct Gaza. This is not just the rule of NGOs. But alhamdulillah, the South African organizations like Al-Imdad Foundation, mashallah, like Ashraful Aid, mashallah, and we have also Gift of the Givers, mashallah, they are working now in Gaza. I have seen, mashallah, Al-Imdad Foundation, mashallah, they are doing amazing work here in Gaza. And also Ashraful Aid, also alhamdulillah, today, inshallah, we will start distribution the cash grant for some affected and needy families here in Gaza due to the airstrikes. And but brother, the reconstruction of Gaza this is the responsibility of the governments, the government, United States, the European Union. These are the risks, because the NGOs, they can't afford, to reconstruct, just because the one house here in Gaza, if you would like to speak about reconstruction of one tower in Gaza, this maybe will cost $500,000. This is, I think, this is more the capacity of the NGO or organization. But alhamdulillah, the NGOs, the South African NGOs, mashallah, they are working. They are doing amazing work in Gaza. I have seen, mashallah, their work, alhamdulillah. And alhamdulillah, we are with them. We are volunteers. Alhamdulillah, with the Imdad Foundation, we are volunteers, alhamdulillah, with Ashraf al-Aid, so that, inshallah, we can, inshallah, help the people of Gaza in this difficulty, providing, the emergency food bags, the cash grants for some. But, the reconstruction of Gaza, this needs the efforts of many countries join, so that, inshallah, we can put a mechanism for reconstruction of Gaza and rebuild the businesses. Okay, it is not just about the buildings or the stones, where there are hundreds of Palestinians where their businesses have been damaged. Maybe all of us, they have watched this bookstore owner who was crying on the TVs. He said that his bookstore cost him more than $60,000, and others, they have their businesses. So it is not just about reconstruction, just some stones or some buildings. No, many hundreds of Palestinians or thousands of Palestinians, they have lost their business and their work, and their agricultural land. Some they lost their companies, their factories. Just one factory which has been destroyed in Gaza. It's mashallah, its losses. It's more than $5 million. This is just one company. So it is not just about buildings, it is about businesses, recovery of Gaza. Until now, the reconstruction mechanism of Gaza is not clear. People they are staying in their homes, they are living and they are staying above the rubbles of their homes. They don't know what to do. Until now, the Palestinian government here in Gaza, they did not start making the damage assessment and for the destruction and for the destroyed, because there is no funding for this. Until now, there is no start point for this process.
Yeah, and this is where I was going to get to the next question, Brother Ahmed. We know that the Palestinian government, of course, there is a lack of resources for them, and they are tight with regards to funding. As a Muslim, as an indigenous person of Palestine, do you feel hurt? And I'm going to ask it from an Arab perspective. Do you feel hurt that your neighboring countries, and I'm talking about the big countries like the United Arab Emirates and Saudi Arabia, are not assisting the people of Gaza, where again they need all of this assistance?
Yes, brother. Yeah. We wallahi feel with the sad. We feel that we are hearted about this conditions, because we don't see any actions from our neighbor countries like the Arab countries to respond to the emergency crisis. Just now, we just have seen some emergency aid from the NGOs. But, for the neighbor countries, until now, there is no real response, because now we need millions of dollars. We are speaking about hundreds of millions of dollars to emergency response to reconstruct of Gaza. And until now, in Gaza, there is no response from the neighbor or the Arab countries until this moment. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that they participate in the reconstructions of Gaza, because Gaza, the emergency response is short term, but for the long term, we need to reconstruct. We need to reconstruct the businesses. We need to reconstruct the buildings. There are huge destructions here in Gaza, and we need the contribution of these countries, inshallah, and our neighbors and all the world to contribute in reconstructions and recovery of the businesses and rebuild of our community here in Gaza.
Imam Ahmed, one final question. You've seen how this destruction has affected the children. And the reason why I speak about the children, and of course adding the elderly, is that they are right now the most vulnerable people within Gaza. From the experience that you've had over the weekend, and unfortunately we weren't able to speak to you yesterday, just give the viewers an idea of how the elderly and the children are trying to cope or trying to survive during what has been yet another difficult time.
Yes. Wallahi, this is something horrible. We are speaking about the children, about their feeling. These children, they have lived for more than 12 days under the shelling, under the voice of the bombs. Wallahi, today some friends told me that their children, every day they dream with the bombing. They're still afraid after the ceasefire. They are still afraid from the voice of the bombing. So these feelings, the feelings of the children here, really makes us feel sorry about them, feel with the sadness about their feelings. They are living now. I think all of them, they need psychological support, not just the children. Also, we are the young, the men, all of us, wallahi, we need psychological support because we live really horror nights. We live fear nights. We live, in something no one can imaginable. No, it is unimaginable for the people of Gaza. So all of us, all of Gaza, women, children, elders, all of us, wallahi, we need psychological support so that inshallah we can live to return to our normal life.
No, inshallah, and we hope, we continue to make dua that the Palestinian people will be able to return to their normal life. It may not happen in our generation, but inshallah, we hope it happens in a lifetime that we have in this dunya. Brother Ahmed, I say Jazakallah to you again for making time for us. We really do appreciate it. I know you've had internet problems, and I know that obviously a lot of the infrastructure is down in Gaza, but may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward you for giving the people here in South Africa information of what is happening to the ground. We will always appreciate it.
Ameen. Jazakallah khair, brother.
No, it is an absolute pleasure. Imam Ahmed, of course, giving us daily updates to what is happening in Gaza. He tried his best. As you can see, we had a bit of a delay, but he really made sure that he got internet connection and he gives us an update of what is happening in Palestine. And for that, we are truly grateful because it gives an eyewitness account of just the post-destruction of the bombing that had happened in Gaza. Well, stay tuned to Aqsa is Calling. We'll be back after the break. Welcome back to Aqsa is Calling. Let me bring in my next guest. Last week we had the South African Director for Amnesty International, Shanila Mohammed. I'd like to bring in the Middle East and North Africa Director for the Amnesty International, Saleh Hijazi. Assalamu alaikum, Saleh, and thank you so much for making time for us.
Wa alaikum salam. Thanks for having me.
Saleh, something that I saw yesterday, it was about a child that was trying to defend a brother. To somebody who doesn't understand the situation, they think it's very cute. But it actually was something that was really sad. That this is what the children of Palestine have resorted to. Small children trying to defend their brother. This is just scratching the surface of what is currently happening in Palestine.
I think I know the video that you're referring to, but let me just bring it into context about what's happening over the last couple of days, which really connects to what's been happening over a period of a few weeks, starting with Ramadan, actually, whereby Palestinians have been protesting across Israel and the occupied Palestinian territories, what is historic Palestine, against Israel's institutionalized discrimination and systematic oppression. It has been unprecedented in at least a few last decades that we've seen Palestinians from the Jalil in the north, all the way through Akka, Haifa, Al-Fahim, across the West Bank to Gaza, down to the Naqab Desert of the south, rise up in this manner to affirm their common identity, to defy the fragmentation that Israel has been imposing on them, and to protest against systematic discrimination and oppression. Israel has launched over the last couple of days what they call the Campaign for Law and Order. But if you read the statements by the police, if you hear the statements by the official, this is nothing more than collective punishment that is imposed on Palestinians inside of Israel, Palestinian citizens of Israel, in what Palestinians call the 48 areas. For them standing up in solidarity with Palestinians in Sheikh Jarrah, with the worshippers of Al-Aqsa and with their fellow Gazans who have been bombed for 11 days. So this video, if it is the same one we're referring to, comes in the context of this police campaign, which is basically to exact punishment on those who have participated or took part in protests against Israel's policies targeting Palestinians.
But Saleh, the question is, why the children? Because, you know, one could say, you know, the saying, pick on your own size. You know, there's a famous English saying of pick on your own size, or pick your battles with your own size. But there just seems to be a continuous campaign to target children. Children who haven't even tasted teenagehood as yet. This, for me, just shows that this is a selective sort of attack or brutality on children who have absolutely nothing to do with what is going on.
Well, look, sir, I mean, Israel has shown over and over again that it has complete disregard for Palestinian human rights, including children. There were over 65 children who were killed in the military operation in Gaza. In the West Bank, children are treated according to military law. They're treated as adults. They're put in adult prisons. They're interrogated as if they are adults by a very violent, sometimes in a very violent manner, you know, arrested during the middle of the night, taken in military jeeps, put into interrogation without the supervision of, for example, a lawyer or the families present. So there are multiple patterns when it comes to children, Palestinian children, and how Israel and Israeli policies deal with them. And this is just one instance here. Again, you know, I repeat, I mean, there are over 65 children who were killed. I was just, you know, before coming onto this interview, I was talking to a colleague in Gaza, and we've been investigating an attack on a Shati refugee camp on the 15th of May, where Israel basically targeted the building, bringing the whole building down, and 10 children were killed in that one single attack, along with with two women. One woman was basically a mother of four, and another woman was a mother of four. There were two children there in the building, you know, a total of 10 children. Two survived. One of them is a baby. So you can only imagine what that, you know, the life of these survivors, the children who survived this attack, are going to be when they've lost whole families. And this is a pattern. This is a pattern that continues. We've seen this pattern in 2014 when Israel launched its military offensive on Gaza, and people were targeted inside their homes. Whole families were wiped out. You know, some of the children, of course, survived, and you know, you can just only imagine what life is going to be for them when, you know, when they basically grow up to learn that their entire family was killed. And so these are, you know, different types of patterns. At the heart of it, there's a disregard for Palestinian life, and there's a disregard for Palestinian rights. There is a system here that is at play. You know, these are not just symptoms of something. There's a system, you know, there's institutionalized discrimination, there's systematic oppression that has been at play since 1948. Continuous dispossession, subjugation, segregation, and fragmentation of the community.
Saleh, Sheikh Al-Jarrah, of course, this was the root cause of what had happened this year. Then, of course, we saw the police attacks on worshippers at Masjid Al-Aqsa. That already was a sign that, okay, we can already write down that this is another chapter in human rights crime that is currently being committed by Israel. But it's what's happening around the area, these settlers that are just coming in and basically telling the people, hey, you know what, get out, this is our house, we're coming to take it, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah, Sheikh Jarrah, the reason why, at least when it comes to Palestinians, people moved in solidarity with Sheikh Jarrah is because that experience speaks to a whole lot of Palestinians in Israel and occupied Palestinian territories. It's a story about dispossession, continuous dispossession. The families in Sheikh Jarrah have been basically forcibly displaced out of their homes in what is now, in Haifa and Yafa, in what is now Israel. And then, you know, continuously displaced until they were able to be settled in Sheikh Jarrah in East Jerusalem by the United Nations Relief and Works Agency. And they are now facing another wave of displacement. This has happened before in Sheikh Jarrah, by the way. In 2009, there were a number of families who were kicked out of their homes forcibly to make way for settlers. In one of the homes, you know, Al-Kurd family, part of their home is there are now settlers living in them, and this is because they took it over in 2009, and now they're basically trying to take the rest of the home. So this speaks to a Palestinian experience, the experience of being basically forcibly displaced from your home, not allowed to return, and then again being pursued in your current existence with policies that discriminate against you when it comes to your civil, political rights or economic and social rights. The issue of forced displacement is at the heart of what is happening. This is one of the root causes that everybody, we at Amnesty International are emphasizing over and over again, and I think everybody should just keep emphasizing over and over again to the others to educate them about, but to your governments like, for example, South Africa, that this is at the heart of the issue here. People being kicked out of their homes to make way for Jewish Israeli settlers. Home demolitions are for this purpose. Not giving building permits are for this purpose. Not redoing residency, for example, residency revocation is for this purpose. It is all aimed at forcibly displacing Palestinians to make way for more illegal settlements.
Saleh, we'll be coming to you after the break to continue the conversation, and obviously the next crux of the conversation when we do come back from the break is quite simply, what is the way forward? So stay tuned to Aqsa is Calling. I'll continue my conversation with Saleh after the break. Welcome back to Aqsa is Calling. I'm still in conversation with Saleh Hijazi from Amnesty International in the Middle East and North African region. Saleh, Jazakallah again for staying with us. We've been seeing journalists, especially Palestinian journalists, being censored and of course being harassed by the Israeli security forces or the defense force. From an Amnesty International perspective, what is your reaction to that?
There is, again, I was speaking earlier about patterns, patterns that have been repeating, over and over again over the years. And one of these patterns is an attack on freedom of expression, freedom of opinion, and freedom of the press, in particular in the occupied Palestinian territories. We and other organizations have attacked, have documented over the years attacks on the press, on attacks on people who freely express themselves, including human rights defenders. Let me give you an example. I mean, my colleague, Layth Abu Zayyad of Amnesty International has been under a punitive travel ban imposed on him by Israel following his work trying to expose company links to illegal Israeli settlements, for example. So there is an attack on human rights defenders, and there is an attack on the press. In the occupied West Bank, people here are governed by military orders, which severely limit civil and political rights, including this of the press. There are journalists now who are in Israeli detention and prison. There are journalists who have been injured and attacked during Al-Aqsa, the raid on Al-Aqsa Mosque on the 10th of May. I spoke to one of the journalists who was basically doing his job, following a number of Israeli forces who have entered the clinic there. And as they were coming out, one of them basically pushed him and said, "What are you doing here?" The journalist said, "Well, I'm doing my job." A video captures that moment. There were actually two videos that captured that moment from different angles. You see a number of Israeli forces grabbing the journalist and beating him repeatedly on the head, and then grabbing him away. He was eventually not detained or arrested, but of course he was left with the injuries and the bruise of that attack. We see this repeated all across the occupied West Bank, and in East Jerusalem in particular. Journalists have reached out to us to report on attacks, including being injured by weapons like tear gas, for example, which they believe was fired directly at them. Also the use of skunk, what is called skunk water, which is a very smelly water that is used against protesters. I've heard from a number of journalists, for example, that they and their equipment was sprayed with that water intentionally as they saw it. And let's remember, of course, Al-Jalaa Tower, which housed the offices of Al Jazeera and Associated Press in Gaza, which was completely brought down by the Israeli Air Force in a bombing, basically flattening the building. You know, this is part of a pattern that is attacking freedom of expression, including of human rights defenders like ourselves.
Saleh, there's talk of course, the war crimes, that the charges that want to be laid, of course, against Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and, of course, the rest of his cabinet. Now, there is a South African, a lawyers association that have created a docket called the Al-Aqsa Docket. Now, in this Al-Aqsa Docket, they're labeling how they're going to go ahead and, of course, present this to the International Criminal Court. Now, from an Amnesty International perspective, how close are we to potentially seeing official war crimes charges being laid against Benjamin Netanyahu and his cabinet?
Well, look, I mean, we have a historic opportunity with now an open investigation by the Office of the Prosecutor at the International Criminal Court into the situation in the occupied Palestinian territories since June 2014, which basically encompasses the war of 2014, the killings along during the Great March of Return, when basically Palestinians in Gaza, most of whom are refugees, marched onto the border to demand their right to return to their homes that they were displaced from in 1948, and an end to the illegal blockade that Israel imposes on them, which amounts to collective punishment. And of course, this recent military operation, which has seen more than 270 Palestinians dead, including more than 65 children, and massive destruction of infrastructure and civilian buildings, including residential homes. So all of this should be included. We are hopeful that this new development with the ICC investigation could bring an end to the cycle of impunity, and that we may be able to see accountability, a time where international law and human rights are front and center in how the international community deals with the situation in Israel and Palestine, and how things happen on the ground, that Israeli soldiers can think twice before carrying out any action.
Are you confident that there can be accountability towards Israel?
I can only be hopeful, to be honest. I mean, this is really the only hope right now that we have. Look, and hope not only for the justice for crimes and human rights violations, but also hope for an international system, because if the international system fails, if the ICC fails at the test of Israel and Palestine, then it's failing all around the world. It will take away from its meaning, for its significance and its legitimacy. You know, if it is acting in a hypocritical way, whereby there is accountability for one part of the world, but no accountability when it comes to Israel, then this is not the right system to be basically imposing or to go by. So there's a real test when it comes to the international order and the International Criminal Court. And so I hope that really it lives up to the test. One, to deliver justice to the victim of violations of international law, but also to give us the hope that there is really a righteous, justice-driven international system that we are part of.
Saleh, I know you're in Ramallah right now, and of course there's been a lot of protest that has been happening with regards to many pro-Palestinian marchers, and of course just simply being there for your fellow countrymen or countrywoman. But just across, you know, the other side of the country, you know, the destruction is there, the loss of housing, the loss of income. I mean, we spoke to a brother Ahmed, earlier on, and he showed us a picture of the houses and the destruction of the houses. Just from what you're hearing in Ramallah, from the people of Ramallah, just a sense of the mood of what is happening right there, and just the sense of not just empathy, but a sense of patriotism towards your fellow Palestinian countrymen or countrywoman.
Well, I'd say there's a sense of hope in this, what is very, to be honest, very, very dark time. The death and the destruction that happened in Gaza is really unimaginable. I want to point out here, though, that I and Amnesty International have been prevented by Israel from entering Gaza since 2012. So if it was not the case, I would be speaking to you from Gaza right now, where I would be basically documenting human rights violations and speaking to the people directly there. But when it comes to Palestinians, and I mentioned in the earlier segment that there was an unprecedented movement by Palestinians to protest against the institutionalized discrimination and systematic oppression across historic Palestine. This is felt, and this is felt as a moment of new hope, that Palestinians are able to defy and defeat the fragmentation that Israel has imposed on them, and that this is a new beginning whereby Palestinians can act together to protect their rights and not be affected by the fragmentation, the separation into the different domains. The communities inside the 48, the blockaded Gaza, the military rule in the West Bank, the illegally annexed East Jerusalem, that this separation, this fragmentation that has been worked on, Israel has developed for so many years, is, it seems at this moment, being defeated. And it gives a great sense of hope to people and to people acting, to Palestinians and the people acting in solidarity with Palestinians.
One final question, Saleh. Do you think the public opinion has changed towards Israel? We've seen protests across the world. We've seen celebrities come out and make obviously quite a big call, notably Bella and Gigi Hadid. So do you think that there is a sense of a public opinion changing right at this very moment?
It does seem so, yes. I mean, not only from the celebrities, you could see also U.S. Congress members framing the situation as that of apartheid. You can see the media also, some of them using apartheid to frame the situations, others pointing to root causes, the systematic nature of the violations that take place. This is also a change, a significant change, and I certainly hope that it continues, that we keep pointing to the root causes of what happened in Gaza and the systematic nature of the violations that take place.
Well, of course, the Amnesty International press release is available on its website, so you can go ahead and view the entire, it's a lot of details that is there. And of course, Saleh Hijazi, one of those who really went attention to detail to try and point out what is currently happening in Gaza and the rest of Palestine. Saleh, I say shukran to you for making time for us, and inshallah, we'll definitely be in contact with regards to what is going on the ground in Palestine. We say jazakallah to you, shukran, and all the best, and please do keep safe.
Shukran. Thank you. Salamat.
Barakallah fikum. Now, that is Saleh Hijazi. He is the director of Amnesty International in the Middle East and North African region. Well, that's all we have for you here on Aqsa is Calling. I will see you again same time, same place tomorrow. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.